Hey folks, I'm just setting up as you do before. Normally people do it before they start streaming, but I'm not all here. So, let's see. No, world's worst message. You must log in. It's especially bad because Ian's a little clammy. Makes fingerprint reader not too great. I've done a few changes since the last video that were not on stream. That's okay, because I will go over them in a moment. Once I get LastPass to stop being rude to me. That's the one thing about all your passwords being randomly generated and having no idea what they are, is that when you actually need to use LastPass or something, and it requires a finger, that doesn't work too great when your fingerprints are all messed up. Okay, get that open. So basically, we've slightly changed in most locations, perhaps all once I get finished. The WUKTA, or the warm-up cooldowns, have been switched to be called transitions. So we've got transitions and activity editor. Don't recall what that was going to be for. We'll see at some point. I don't remember. But oh, right. Makes sense. That's for editing your activities. But yeah, so we have the transition editor, and yeah, so for exercises, nothing changed there. But for warm-up and cooldown sets, we now have their own unique list. Excuse me. And let's add those right now. So first is warm-up set. And the next one is cooldown set. And so now we've got a list of exercises, a list of cooldowns, a list of warm-ups. One thing I want to do real quick before we move further is, well, I want to move this script up, but that aside, what I want to do is I want to make it so that, and this is it capturing my mouse on this screen? Let's see. It is not. Let me fix that real quick. That's kind of useless to not capture mouse cursor. Oh, it says it is. I just don't see it at the moment, probably because I'm not technically in the window. But that's okay. Alright. We need to make a sort of universal event system so that I can easily just trigger events from anywhere without having to think about it too much, which is my favorite way to do things. So we're going to create a folder for controllers. And it's just, generally speaking, this is for the singletons or singleton-like things that are in your project. I don't generally recommend singletons, but not anymore at least. But, you know, for things that act like it. So we're going to go into the fitness controller real quick, and we are going to fix the warm-up and cooldown sets to be their own separate entities. Cooldown set. Also happy to say that the first video did not get copyright struck by Namco, I think it was. I don't even remember again. But whoever did Ridge Racer, so that's good. I'm assuming it's because it's so quiet, but we'll see. We'll give it time. I'm sure they'll come around and demand my head. Oh, I already had it down here. Totally forgot about that. And we can get rid of this update function for now. We probably won't need the update function for basically anything unless we add in some features that don't currently neither exist nor are planned. Alright, so we've got a missing event over here, which is fine. Or a missing function, I should say, sorry. Let's get rid of this event. And we will create two more generic events. We've got the add warm-up and the event add cooldown. I should probably decide whether or not I want to keep capitalizing up and down in these words, but that's fine. So we'll go up to the controllers and create that script I was talking about. A event controller. You don't have to call it this, you can call it anything you want. Naming is always the hardest part of these projects. namespace. Again, not necessarily needed, but I like to do it. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to have a private, private static event controller, and we're just going to call it event, sorry, because event is taken, underscore event. You'll see why in a moment. Then you got public static event controller, events, and get, and what we're going to do is return if events is null, and you could actually just write this as well, but you know, if events is null, then we will make events equal find object of type events, event controller, and a moment here. We will. Yeah, thought so. I don't know why I must have just been too impatient before. And then return events. And the reason we're doing that is all of our functions that we're going to be adding down here are going to be static. And we're just going to make a region, static reference, end region, static ref, because we never need to see this again. So we're just going to hide it up here. Make a nice one-liner. All right. Now we're going to do a private generic, data.generic game event, and the first one's going to be add warmup. Or actually, sorry. Yeah, no, that's right. Add warmup. Semicolon is important. Data generic game event add cooldown. We are going to serialize these strictly so they show up in our inspector. And then we are going to go over to that said inspector. Oh, in fact, we don't even need this to be a mono behavior. I don't think. No, because it's going to be static. It doesn't need any update loops. So we're going to make it a scriptable object, which is going to make it vanish off of this. Or, no, we don't even have it attached to anything, so we're good. Okay. Now we just need to create it. And to do that, we need to go get this line, because I hate remembering it. We got controller event. Okay, and wait for it to compile. And then under scriptable objects events, might as well put it in there, because if it's going to be controlling all the events, it makes sense to have it with them. Boom. And then we're going to add these references to that. And over here, we're going to make a public static add warmup. And here we have a generic object, which is the warmup itself. And we are going to say events dot add warmup. Now we've got our public static void. We've got our got raise. All right, so we've got our static function sends out a warm-up activity for That's exactly what it does. Okay, so we will then come over to our fitness controller, which is currently where we have our sets. So we will add our other two sets. And let's see, fitness controller, add warm-up. So add warm-up, and that is a dynamic event, which is triggered itself by the add warm-up event. So what's going to happen is this event's going to get called. It's going to trigger this response, which is going to send the information transferred by this event to this function, which is what we want. So then we say warmup set.add, And you can just cast these as data.warmup, or sorry, just warmup, I believe. What are they? Oh, they're transitions. Transition. And that should be correct. So what that's going to do is it's going to take this ambiguous object warmup, and it's going to turn it into a transition and then add it to this list, which will complain if they already exist. And we'll work that out later. What we would want to do is check if it's contained in that list, and if it is, then maybe this is how you'd be editing as well. And then we would just leave a comment if that becomes the case. With that in mind, let us make a temporary script just to demo this functionality. I believe that is what we want to do. Or, actually, we have that pop-up that we're still not done with. And so we can do it there. Add currently triggers this. And we'll change the name of this just to be consistent. Add transition. And then we got transition adder. Transition adder, it is not in there currently, so let's open it up. Add cooldown object. Oh, actually we're good. So add cooldown, or we'll consider this the warm up for now. So add warm up, and then we go down here and we say data.event, or sorry, events.event controller. And we are now adding a warm-up, and we would do that with a new transition. And the transition is not transform, transition, silly. We've got our information that we need to pass through, so we have the exercise, which is the name. In fact, I'm just going to make this a little bit easier to read. So the name is exercise, the sets is sets, the duration is duration, and the notes is or are notes. And now, what's going to happen is when that button is hit, it's going to trigger the add cooldown function, which will then trigger the event, which will then add it to whatever, or will then cause anything listening to respond. And we might as well add in a debug message. And that'll tell us that it worked. And if it doesn't work, we'll figure out why, but it should. So we got our exercise, testaroonie. How many sets of that are we going to do? We'll say 5 sets, each one for 10 seconds. And notes, testing. Click add exercise. Our console did not respond, so now I need to see why. And it's probably because this button is not, no, it is hooked up. So we've got add warm-up, add transition, go here, transition adder. This is saved, so we'll slap a breakpoint right here. Fitness controller. No, it's listening. All right. Event controller, it's hooked up. Okay. So yeah, we'll just we'll attach it and check it out. Okay, so it's not. Oh, that's why we put it in the cooldown, not the warm up. My bad. It often is something simpler than what you're thinking. You end up going down a rabbit hole and just realize you put an O instead of a 0 or something like that. Okay, testaroonie. 11, 12. Here we go. Add exercise. Null reference. That's actually promising. That's a good thing. I mean, depends on your definition of good, but okay, so the problem here, actually, why would that be null? I know it shouldn't be event controller. It is indeed there. Did I not make... So we got our event. Interesting. I gotta think for a moment. Let's make sure that the thing that is null is not the warm-up itself. Because it could be. Could be a casting issue. But I don't think so. No, it's definitely there. Oh, interesting. Oh, duh. Because we made it a scriptable object, it's not in the scene, so you can't find it this way. And that's totally fine. That was just a goof on my part. So the way you find it is we actually would put it into a resources folder instead. Okay. So we will create a resources folder, and in there we will have an events folder, or let's just say a controllers folder. And what we would do is resources.load event controller, and the path would be controllers. I don't think you put the full name, but let's just gamble and see if you do. Oh, there we go. Okay. So now the warm-up is added, and we've got this message here that the event was raised correctly. And yeah, so we can come over here to the warm-up set and see that indeed there is a new warm-up here. That's cool. That's good. Now we've got a nice, simple universal event system. So we can come down here, basically copy this whole thing, change this. Let's add cooldown. Cooldown. And cooldown. I wonder if you can even see that very much. No, I'm not far enough down. Gotta have it like right there, yeah? I'll eventually remember that. If I want to have it like that, just gotta move the text of whatever I'm working on to the top of the screen. But, you know, if you miss it sometimes, you can just listen. And get rid of that breakpoint. We got our cooldowns, we got our warm-ups. We might as well just add in our exercises as well. Add exercise. And it's going to work in the exact same fashion as these. It's real simple. That's why I like doing this. Is, you know, you basically write it once and then you're just kind of copying and pasting. And sure, there's probably some faster way that this could be done with generics and make it super complicated and difficult to read, but does anybody really want that? I know I don't. I deal with that enough at work. Okay. So hide that. And we can even, just for funsies, we can give this a title, which is a function or a parameter of Odin, which is my favorite add-on for Unity currently. And what that'll do, once we compile, is rather uselessly, but attractively, it adds a title. Who'da knew? There's also a header if you're not using Odin and you just want to use Unity. It does basically the same thing, but I like Odin, so I use it whenever I have an excuse or when I don't. Just anytime, basically. Add exercise. Now, the reason I like using events in this system is basically they never break, like they're never null. Once you get that first initial reference to the controller correct, then you're pretty much good to go for the rest of the project, which I think is ideal. You may not, but... So one thing we need to do for the pop-ups is are they of type pop-up? They are not. So we need to actually make a pop-up script, and that's going to do showing and hiding for the obvious reasons you would expect. See here. So we don't need it in events, we don't need it in controllers, we don't need it in data entry, we don't need it in interfaces or resource or scriptable objects. It would be under UI, very likely. So we got pop-ups. And we'll create a script that itself is called pop-up. You do it singular, that way if you make a list of it, it would be a list of pop-ups, which would be itself called pop-ups. As opposed to calling it pop-ups, and there would be a list of, yeah, you get it. Okay, namespace, rico.ui. And then we can just delete this for now. You could also do it as an interface, which I recognize. Will we do that? It's effectively... Yeah, sure. Let me recheck the terminology for interfaces. I always mess up, like, the naming of the functions. Okay, so we got public interface, pop-up, and then we've got, what is it? Just void show, void hide, and I think that's all we need for pop-ups. Yeah. So, technically that would then put this interface it'd be pop-up. No, let's not make an interface. I much prefer being class. It doesn't actually matter all that much, but I just don't want to have to change the name, to be perfectly honest. Public virtual void show. And public virtual void hide. And what we can do with these functions, what you complaining about? Oh yeah, you're right. I don't need semicolons there. We can have by default these functions just literally turn the game object off and on. If we add a pool for the pop-ups later, that would be how we would access them, or some sort of list for them. Game object.set active true. Game object.set active false. Nothing fancy, just does what it says on the tin. Now we can come over to the transition adder. Tempted to just rename it transition editor. Yeah, might as well. We don't need to be so granular. Transition editor. And we're going to grab that text because that needs to match. Well, apparently it doesn't. So it used to need to match the name of the class, but apparently that's no longer the case, but I still like doing it. I don't know when they changed it or why they changed it, but they did. So it's got transition editor and it's in there. So now the obvious functions that we need for transitions are adding and editing, because removing you would do right on the thing itself. You'd have like a trash can or something like that, I presume. So transition editor. We can do this, and look how quick this is. Done. Now cooldowns and warm-ups are supported, and you would determine which of these you would do based on, I guess we'll just do a different pop-up for each one. Might as well. They'll both be transition editors, but one will be the warm-up editor, one will be the cooldown editor. Easy peasy, you know? It's a bit of duplication of information, but not in any meaningful way. Curious what that looks like. Oh, silly me. Let me delete that tweet and try again. You can't very well tweet about streaming if you don't include your flippin' URL. Alright, so let's try it again. Close, press, observe. There we are. And then it takes me to me. Oh, hello, me. Okay. Now I can close this and get back to work. So yeah, we got add warm-ups, add cooldowns, we got all the update functions. Something I would like to add is, well, I guess it doesn't matter unless we make a PC version of this. I was gonna say a tab function for tabbing through the cells, but we'll worry about that later. Where were we? I got a little distracted there. We have our pop-up, which would go under pop-ups, and we'll just do a prefabs folder. Drop that in there. And let's see. So we have an add button. We need an... Oh, let's just do save exercise. We'll change it from saying add to save. How fortuitous. And so now, if you open up a warm-up or cooldown or exercise, and if it doesn't exist and you hit save, it'll add it. If it does exist and you hit save, it'll edit it. That seems reasonable. So over in the fitness controller, we would be first. We'll have our transition warm-up equals... Oh, sorry, we won't be able to do that. Let's change this to be the word value. Transition value. So now we have our warm-up, right? And so what we say is if warm-up set.contain contains value. Sorry, contains warm-up. Then we want to edit it. And the way we find that and change it is... Oh, actually, we can just do this all in one fell swoop. Transition... Existing... Oh my god. I'm having an existential crisis. Sometimes you type a word a billion times and then in the heat of the moment you forget how to spell it. Okay, there you go, existing. Not even a complicated word, but warm-up set dot content dot find x where x dot, or sorry, where x equals name equal. Oh no, you couldn't do that. So we need to have a hidden ID on these things so that we can track them easier. Okay, let's really quick comment this out and I'll show you what I'm thinking. Private int ID equals 0. So the way this would work, I'm thinking at least, is when you save a routine, we will give it a integer value that dictates, or do you just need to track the index? Yeah, I guess if you just track the index and make that their ID number, that's fine, because then if you, no, because if you delete one, then all of them change. Because my thought is, what if you have two exercises with the same name? People will want to do that. So we would want to track a number that is saved when the routine is saved. Yeah, it's fine. So we have one more thing we need to track. Internal integer ID. And we'll make it serialized just so I can track it. And on the fitness controller, we will simply... I guess we could make the ID thinking here? Because you can very easily make a very short string that actually itself is effectively infinite, even though it isn't. You can actually see that in YouTube videos when you look at the ID for them. It's very short. It's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 digits. And you think to yourself, oh, it must be easy to find a random YouTube video just by putting random numbers and letters, but there's like 10 trillion values or some nonsense like that. Well, for now, we'll come back to that. For now, we're just going to add it. And if it exists, it exists. I think that's fair. But we will keep this structure so that when we come back to it later, we will have easy access to the information itself. That looks good. And we might as well do one more for exercises. Now obviously casting can be a little dangerous because it is entirely possible that the cast will fail and you'll end up with a null object, but because I am strictly controlling what is being passed through, I'm not concerned about it, and especially since I'll be largely the one using this. I don't know if or when I'll release it. I'm not too concerned. I don't need to protect myself as much as I would the average person. So the save button will save the exercise. Currently the only flaw is that, well, it's a major flaw, but it's that we don't currently track the ID number. So when we get the data to populate... Oh, okay, so I've got an idea here. Private transition. And what we do here is public void populate, or on the show rather, we have a show. It inherits from UI pop-up, and actually it should be a UI itself, so we're going to do that. We'll make this redundant. We're going to get rid of all this. And it's actually a little bit more complicated. So I guess what we want to do with that pop-up is we want to be able to pass a value through it as well. Public virtual void show, we'll say transition. So now we've got this as well, and what we say is public override, or public show, no, yeah, it's gonna make me over it. Public override show, and what we're gonna say is we actually don't need this one, so transition, or this dot transition equals transition. And then down here we say transition dot x. Is it saying that's a name? Is it name? I knew that. I remembered. Or did I? Let's see. F12. ID name sets notes. Yes, okay. Name, transitions.sets, transitions.duration, transitions.note, and then down here, when we're sending it, we just send the value. How about that, huh? So now, when we show the pop-up, we will show it by passing through what is about to be edited. This will update this We also need to update the text on screen, which means we need references to some things. I think they're all input fields. Text input box. Oh, right. All right, so we got, oh, what? Oh, okay. Got real confused for a moment there. Input fields. So private input fields. UI.input. Unity UI. Input field. And then it's going to be like, you should use this. Notes. Duration. Sets and name. Sets and exercise. And then we're going to serialize these again so that we can get access to them. Because we want them private because we don't want anything editing them outside of this. And it just saves you some headache, really. To be perfectly blunt. So now we wait for it to pop up. And then we drop a few of these open. Title we don't need. But we do need... Let's see, where is it? Oh, here we are. Exercise goes here, sets goes there, duration goes there, and notes goes there. So now we can say, when this is shown, exercise dot, what are our options here? Okay, dot text equals transition dot name, sets dot text equals transition dot sets, duration dot text equals transition dot duration, and I know it's complaining right now that those are integers and not strings. We'll fix that in a sec. Notes dot text equals transition dot notes, and then we can come up here. We can say dot toString dot toString, and yeah, we're good to go. The easiest way to now show this is we are going to want to make a fake transition, probably in Fitness Controller. We'll hide this, hit play. Oh, we need a pop-up controller to actually... Oh, am I? Let's see here. I was loud on my side for a little bit there. I can fix that. Sounds. Recording. We'll try that. See how it goes. Okay, as I was saying, we need to create a pop-up controller, which will then handle the showing and hiding of various pop-ups, of which currently I think we're only going to have 3. So pop-ups, pop-up controller. Yeah, we might as well keep it there. Open that up. Oh yeah, I guess I should ask, is that better? Or is it still quiet? So yeah, it sounded fine to me earlier, but different headphones, all that sort of stuff. We go .ui. And go here. I'm just gonna delete these for now because we don't actually need those. And okay, better's good. Yeah, because it looks like I should be about twice as loud as the music itself. But we'll see. I'll play it back later and realize I can't hear myself, but that's fine. So we need a list of pop-ups. Public list pop-up. This is something that I'm going to be adding buttons for, but it's fine for now. And let's see. So we got our list of pop-ups. We can hide. What's it called? Hide label. Do that. We can actually make it a private list because we don't need to see it. I mean, we'll want to see it in the inspector, but we don't need to see it elsewhere in the project. And what we can do is make a public enumerator of pop-ups, which how should we call it? Type is probably fine. And we've got add warm-up, add cooldown, add exercise. And these conveniently have a, let's do it that way. These conveniently have an integer value that is actually associated with them, which will be the same as the index here. So it's like all the benefits in the world and none of the drawbacks. Okay, so now we got our list here. We will apply on this guy. Delete it, go over here, we'll see we have this empty pop-up spot. In our assets, we have the prefab right here, and we will make a couple clones of it. So we got our transition currently, so 2 more. So we'll say add cooldown. Oh, actually, let's keep it as 1 for now. Because I may need to do more work on it. But we got our transition. I guess technically we didn't need to remove label, but I'm trying to, the thing I wanted here is I didn't want it to actually be a, shows a list. I want it to be just, you'll see what I mean later. Okay, so we got our transition. Now we need a show pop-up function. And a hide pop-up function, for that matter. Public void show pop-up. Yeah. And public void hide pop-up. And the way this is going to work is real simple for now. It's pop-ups dot for each x hide. And then pop-ups dot find. Actually, we can just do it this way. Pop-up type. Dot. We're going to cast pop-up to an integer, which will find us the index, and we're going to say show. Easy peasy. And then for hiding, we're just going to do this again, where we just hide all of them. But eventually later, we'll do it more specifically in case we want to have stacked pop-ups, something like that. Okay, so show pop-up will hide all available pop-ups that exist in the list. It'll show the one that you've told it to show. That's good. And then we can do a button show pop-up. Let's see, that should make a button in the scene for me to use real quick. Okay, so we'll press play. And we've got add warm-up, which is the one that we were working on. We'll invoke. It didn't error, which is good. But it's not visible, which is bad. And it's not visible because the pop-up is not actually in the scene. That'll do ya, but I need to hide it. And that's actually the one that we want to have here. So we'll come over here, drag it into the scene, put it on here, turn it off, save. And it's not going to populate the text fields yet because we're sending a generic show to it. We're not sending a specific show to it. So when we hit invoke, it shows. And we can make a button as well for hide pop-up. Hide pop-up. And these, again, they're for debugging. They're not, they won't be forward-facing for anybody. So we show the pop-up, and then we hide it, show it, hide it, et voila. Next, we need to... I guess, technically, we don't even need this level of show. What we need is an initiation function. So we're gonna get rid of this, which is gonna cause a momentary error, but that's fine. Do I not have initializable yet? I don't. So, init is not an override, so it's just public void init. And that will do the base.show function, which is this. Not that it needs to. So actually, we'll get rid of that as well. So we've got our init. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to make a temporary fake example, just so we can make sure that it works. And we're going to say pop-ups. And we'll just take this value again, just for now. And init. Oh, sorry. We've got to cast it first as a transition adder. Whoops, transition editor. Init. And we got new transition. And we'll make the name whodunit. The sets will be, we'll say 5. Duration will be 25. And the notes will be okay. And so in theory, we should see these values displayed as the defaults in our pop-up when we show it. And if that works, then we move on to the next step. So we hit invoke, whodunit, 5, 25, okay. So now we have our edit powers, which is good. I'm curious, can I see, let's hit save on this exercise. We'll check out the scriptable objects and look at the warm-up set and see, we see the ID is 0. So now we're going to check 123 and we save. Oh, and it complains that it already contains the previous value because they are the same thing. But that may be a good thing if it does maintain that they are the same object. I don't need that ID. Cool. That's a good piece of information to have. I'll delete that for now. Okay, I didn't actually expect that, but that's super handy. So we've got our show function, our hide function. We've got our adding warm-up prefab. And so when you click this button here, we want it to show that pop-up. So we'll drag the pop-ups controller. We're actually going to want to make this an event in a little bit, but just for the sake of checking it out. Oh no, yeah, we're gonna have to make it an event right now. That's fine. Events. We've got a generic event of show pop-up. And I don't think we need it, but we'll make a empty event of hide pop-up for now. But we definitely need show, so we're gonna go over here to this button and click it and show pop-up. We'll just make it generic, or Not generic necessarily, but empty. Add warm-up. Oh, show warm-up editor. That should... Oh no, because we'll want to pass null. We'll want to pass null if we're adding a new one, and we'll want to pass the transition if we are adding a or editing a current one. That makes sense. Events, generic. Show add warm-up. Or show warm-up adder. Man, these are always so complicated. Editor. I like that word better. And we can shorten the name a little bit to woo. Show woo editor. And go over here to this button. Show woo editor. Game event raise. So when you click that, we currently send through, I'll say, can we do null? Should still work. We'll send through, oh, can I? It's gonna make it be a number, isn't it? That's fine. We'll try that out real quick and see what happens. It says missing, but it should work. Okay, and we'll come over to the pop-up controller, and we will we're gonna add a game event listener. I'm just thinking real quick. So this is just the generic add. Yeah, I guess show pop-up just needs to be an object. Because all we want this button to do is show this. There's multiple ways to do it. I'm just trying to think of the way that is the least clunky, which sometimes is more complicated than you'd think. I guess we could pass the integer value associated with the button itself, which we're already doing. So then we would say public void show pop-up index and if we wanted to keep funneling everything through the same function, we would then do pop-up type index, and so then we come over here. Generic game event listener. The event we're listening for is the show editor. And then we would drop ourselves in there, look at our controller, show pop-up. Oh yeah, we don't have a dynamic, because dynamic has to be string, doesn't it? System.convert.toInt. Okay, the things I do for science. Hey now, where are you? Because I darn well see this string right here. Public void show string. Pop-up controller. that. Oh, is it? Oh, duh. Huh. That's what it was.
It's gotta be an object if you send in an object.
Oops, wrong one. So we'll try that real quick. It might catastrophically fail, but we saved, so we don't care. You know? It didn't fail. Just didn't do anything. Which tells me that I need to do it differently. The easiest and most obvious way to do it would be to literally just attach the pop-ups controller, which is always going to be there, and tell it to show a pop-up. And instead of it being object-based, we'll make it integer-based. And then instead of converting, we'll have this. Letting that compile real quick. Pop-up controller. Does it require it to be a string? No, because there it is. So this should work instead. And then we can get rid of this. And we can get rid of this for now. And this for now. Because we know this is always going to be in the scene forever. Because if it's not, we don't have our pop-ups, which is not good. So we don't need to over-engineer things whenever we can help it. It's just very difficult sometimes not to do that. Alright. Clicking that button does indeed bring up this. And it's all blank. Which actually tells me that I think I want to figure out some way, maybe adding another function to the pop-up controller of initializing things, so that it'll first open the pop-up and then it'll initialize the values on it. So we're going to go over to the pop-up controller and we'll scroll down to, let's say, here. And we're going to say public void init initialize pop-up? Initialize pop-up? Init pop-up's fine. We don't need long words. And the way that's going to work is it's going to take the, again, the integer, the index, and it's going to say pop-ups index.init. I guess we need to make all pop-ups have an init function. Public virtual void init. Technically, this is probably better as an interface, but you know, you can do it any way you want, so I do it this way. And what this does is we'll go over to the transition editor, and if transition equals null, can I do that as a new transition? I didn't think so. Because it's not a struct, it is a class. So if transition equals null, then we're going to want to make transition equal new transition. And we don't actually have a constructor with no values, so we're going to want to make that real quick. And all that is making sure nothing is null. Sets equals sets, and it's complaining that I don't need to write this, and it's right. 0. Duration 0. Notes equals this. And we actually, in this particular case, we would want to instead put, there's the hint text on this thing for these boxes, and that's the, what field is that? Because we have the text field, which is this. And so the next thing we want to be able to edit is the placeholder, which I would have wagered would be attached. Oh, it is. Good. Okay. So we'll go in and we're going to say place exercise.placeholder.text. Is it just a text field? Yeah. Get component text is equal to in here we've got sets, duration, notes, count here, duration in seconds, notes here, return. Oh no, that's fine. We can do this. So it'll create a new transition, it'll update all the placeholders, and then it will fill in all the text if there is any. So we can just hide this, save, go check the console, says I missed something somewhere. I did. Or in essence, I missed something somewhere. I put too much somewhere. Hey Google, turn on the lights. It's getting too dark in here. Thanks. Okay, so it did open it. Nothing broke. That's good. I don't see the placeholder text, which I find a little weird. Let's see. It's on. And is it because... input row. It's not the best fit. There's nothing in there. Character limit 10. Oh, yeah, that one. Content type, placeholder. Very interesting. Because the notes definitely has the placeholder text there. And it looks the same. Let's look here. Text is blank, and then we come up here. Text is blank. Like, I'm not super concerned, I'm just a little confuzzled. At any rate, now that we have our, oh, yeah, we need to update the cancel button. Buttons, cancel. When you click it, we want pop-ups to hide. So now we've got add, cancel, add. Oh, I'm on the wrong screen. Doo-doo-doo. Oh, we're paused. Doo-doo-doo. Paused again. Oh, no reference. What's the no reference? Transition.name equals exercise. Oh, transitions? No, why would transition be no? That is weird. Oh, I know exactly why. We are not initting. So we'll go back to this button, add a second function. That second function is going to be popups dot controller init popup, and we'll keep it as 0 as well. And this time, almost done with the soundtrack. Okay, so add warm up. Now, oh, still null. Why would that be the case? Might as well serialize this so we can see what the values in it are. Or if it is indeed null. No, it's definitely not null there. I don't even think I need these anymore, do I? Oh, yeah, I do. That's why I have them. So I can actually update them the other direction. Well, let's see which thing it thinks is null here. Well, that's definitely not null. Well, color me confused. I don't know what I did to make that work. That's always good. Whatever. Alright, so we got our scene here with our warm-up section, which means we now have something that needs to be populated. Let's see, we can hide pop-ups. Warm-up titles here, button is here, title background is here, which means the body is here. And so then we have our content. That'll just be an empty prefab here, which we then will currently resize to this. And that's the content. And we need to create, for now, a very simple box that displays our information. This is all stuff that will later be made to look nicer. How much time do I got before this is over? 2 minutes. Well, we'll see what we can get done in 2 minutes, and then we'll finish up in the next video. I don't need a camera, that's for sure. So we create our background, which we will temporarily make sort of pinkish for no particular reason. And it will be stretched outwards with our bog standard buffer. The content box itself is going to be a vertical layout group. Let's see here. How did you get jammed in there? Middle center. You got the width right. Alright, right, that's right. Width definitely should not be -10. There we go, that's better. Save. So when I turn it on for some reason... Ah, there we are. 5 and 5. So we've got our transition display. And the information that is in every warm-up is, as we discussed before, name, sets, notes, duration. So we just need to display that, which would be with, oops, not a camera. That thing really wants to be on there. name. In fact, roughly speaking, how does he have this? Oh yeah, we'd have some sort of list up here. And then, because we're treating it a bit like an Excel sheet. Not quite literally, but... Okay. So what I'll end up doing is I'll have label, 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 label. Notes will actually be just a series of buttons. Alright. So that's that. Notes will just be a series of buttons. And you can click those to see information on it. So that leaves exercise, sets, and duration as the things that actually need to exist. Real quick, before we leave this stream, I'm just going to leave a note for myself so that I don't forget that. Exercise. And that's actually, put that up here. Way up here. There we go. So this will go here. So we've got headers is what we'll call it. Headers. Drop this in there. And just to save myself a little bit of time real quick, I'm going to actually add a horizontal layout group to this. Make it stretch. And height is fine. Control width. Exercise. Sets. Duration. And what we're going to do is, since again this is all going to be in progress stuff, is we're just going to make 3 columns that themselves are going to be, their width will be determined by these headers, which I believe will work just fine. Yeah. Okay. So that's where we'll leave it for now. Don't know when the next one will be. Probably, maybe even tomorrow since it's the weekend. Gonna go, I don't know, play WoW or Pokemon or something. So many games right now. So many games.